The virus will mutate into a form that can be transmitted from human to human. When you walk around the streets of Vietnam, you can see signs of the traditional culture, but you can also see how quickly the country's developing.
Do they have medium smaller than this?
It's becoming a place where fake Ralph Lauren fetches more than the founder of the communist regime.
The fake polo shirts cost $4. The Ho Chi Minh t-shirts cost $2. I don't know how Ho Chi Minh would feel about that.
And as Vietnam has become a part of the global economy, it's also become a part of the global fight against avian flu. The front lines of the battle against bird flu are in Asia, where around half of those infected with the virus have died. Health experts worry that if avian flu is left unchecked, it could spark a pandemic, killing millions around the world.
Vietnam is one of the last remaining communist countries and has traditionally covered up its problems. But with avian flu, the government has been more open about the situation and has stressed the importance of preventing what could be a pandemic. Practically every day in both the Vietnamese and the English language newspaper, there are updates about the avian flu. In today's paper, it says that the Prime Minister warned that the bird flu is rapidly developing and that if the spread of bird flu was not prevented, the country would be in serious danger of sparking a human flu pandemic.
In response, the Vietnamese government has launched a public health awareness campaign banning the sale of live poultry in the larger cities, which have a higher concentration of people.
Today, the government announced that it has eliminated 93% of the poultry in Ho Chi Minh City, including chickens, ducks, quail, pigeons, and pet birds. But one of the places where you can still find chicken is at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That's because KFC imports its frozen chicken, but even they're struggling, and recently they started a promotion to lure back customers.
Instead of selling chickens, people have turned to selling other things. This woman used to sell chicken noodle soup, but now she's turned to selling eel soup. Well, we've been on this massive hunt in Vietnam for poultry, and it looks like we finally found some. Not quite what we were hoping for.
But about an hour outside of Ho Chi Minh City, we saw a whole different side of the battle against bird flu.
We're here visiting a chicken farm in Vietnam, and this farmer here has about 8,000 chickens that have recently been inoculated to ward against avian flu.
Our escort was a veterinarian named Mr. Hung. He's the vice chairman of bird flu control for Vietnam's District 4, but he simply refers to himself as a commando.
When we think about commandos, we think about, a big threat, and you don't necessarily think of chickens. How serious is this problem?
Thì bây giờ dịch cúm gia cầm là rất là nguy hiểm. Bird flu now considered very dangerous is a number one hot topic right now.
Although people can't pass avian flu to one another, scientists are afraid that if enough people get infected from birds, the virus will mutate into a form that can be transmitted from human to human, sparking a pandemic.
Mr. Hung, you visit chicken farms all the time as you're trying to fight this battle. What is the first thing that you look for?
Firstly, we have to take a whole look at the chicken, and we watch if the eyes are swollen, if the face are swollen, if the feet are swollen, and the chicken lies motionless or look very weak. Are you scared?
A little bit.
Don't worry. I'm not scared, but I'm frightened.
If anyone is susceptible to avian flu, it is farmers like this man who come in contact with different types of poultry.
We took a tour of the farm to see what the conditions were like.
Look at this pig. That is insane.
He gave an advice to the farmer that the chicken should not be raised very near to the pig cages.
Mr. Hung is telling us that this farm isn't really following the procedure that should be followed. The house is too close to the chickens. The chickens are too close to the pigs. You have dogs running around. You have little kids playing. And so he's saying that the situation here isn't ideal.
Because according to Mr. Hung, even inoculating poultry doesn't completely protect against avian flu.
In addition to handling chickens, what people are worried about are what you see under here, the droppings or the chicken poop. And what can happen is even though chickens are inoculated, they can still carry some form of the virus, and that virus can end up in their droppings. People say that then the droppings can, mix with the water. The water is right next to the pigs. The pigs can drink that water. They can then become infected with the virus, or even, pets like dogs. And then those animals can then transmit it to humans. So it's a big combination of factors that can contribute to this outbreak.
It was a sad situation. This farmer was already losing money from people not buying his chickens, and even though he'd vaccinated them, it still wasn't enough. It's estimated that 30 million households in Vietnam are involved in raising poultry, and as we continued further into the countryside, we could see the situation getting worse for these farmers.
That cannot be sanitary, right?
Maybe not.
The dogs running. We are currently standing in the world's biggest nightmare right now, 17,000 unvaccinated chickens in southern Vietnam. All of the chicken are just roaming around, and that's because we hear that the farmer can't afford to feed the chickens, so he's letting them just roam out and try to find food out in the open. Stay away, chicken.
The threat of avian flu is scary for the world, but it's these farmers who are feeling the immediate impact.
Can you tell us how you've been affected as a farmer by the bird flu?
Thật ra thì hiện tại chạy gà.
As a matter of fact, till this moment, there is no illness case in this farm. But due to the media and education from the government, the people are so afraid to eat chicken, so it's very hard to sell chickens out into the market. This is the debt paper. He owns the feed company.
This farmer is showing us his loan papers. He took out a loan to pay for his chickens, but now he can't sell any of his chickens because of avian flu, so he had to put his land up to pay for the loan. On top of that, the government has ordered him to kill his chickens, but he will only receive 30 cents for each chicken that he kills, and each chicken costs $3 to actually raise. He said he feels so horrible and that he feels like dying. When you look around, you can see the bones from dead chickens. Right here, there's like a chicken foot, bones from a chicken foot. Then you also have these dogs running around that are picking it up and eating and sucking on the bones.
You see that dark the burn mark over there? They kill some of the chickens, and they chop it to get the meat for other chicken to eat.
The situation has become so bad for these farmers. They're not selling any chickens, so they can't afford to feed their chickens. So the chickens that end up dying, they will chop them up and boil them and feed to the chickens. Over here you can see a bunch of chicken feet, which is being used for food.
We were standing there talking with this farmer, and other farmers in the area heard that we were asking questions about avian flu, so they came over to speak with us because they're all really frustrated by the situation and how it's been affecting their lives.
I asked this farmer if he thinks that there is a big threat of avian flu, and he said that he doesn't know, but it doesn't really matter because he and the other farmers in this area are already dying because of the threat of avian flu. They're going into bankruptcy.
Anh cũng là nông trại ở đây phải không ạ?
Can we talk to him as well? This is Hao. He's 27 years old. He's been raising chickens for the last 7 years. And he said that if this situation with bird flu continues for the next couple of weeks, he'll be totally out of money. There have been no cases of avian flu in this area to date, but we just arrived in Vietnam about 3 days ago, and when we arrived, 14 provinces had been affected. 3 days later, today, 17 provinces have been affected by avian flu, so it could be just a matter of time before this province is hit.
But these farmers feel that avian flu has already struck their province because the threat alone has taken away their livelihoods, their means of supporting their families, and their hope for the future.
See more Vanguard Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on Current or online at current.com/Vanguard.